Hi, listener. This is From Ideology to Unity, a spiritual journey where we let go of ego and ideological doctrine in favor of meaning, purpose, and unity as a whole. Today, I'm doing part 2 of my reading of The Emerald Tablet of Hermes by Hermes Trismegistus. Trismegistus. There you go, Hermes Trismegistus. I always said it wrong again. Well, it's actually been like 3 months since I did part 1, but I said I was going to do it, and here I am. So basically, what's interesting about this text is each of these, there's a series of translations of what are essentially the same thing, but they're put in a number of different ways, of which you can interpret different things from it. Like some of them are quite short, and some of them are like at least twice as long. The one I just did was, the one I did last was the Isaac Newton one from 1680. Now, what's interesting is, given the amount of time that's gone by, I may well be interpreting things a bit differently, which is a good thing, I'd say. If you haven't seen the last episode I did on this, I would check that out first. Or you don't have to, you can do whatever order you want, really. So, I mean, I could give you more information about this text, just in case. Digitalized by Watchmaker Publishing or reserved. Copyright 2013 by Merchant Books. Yeah, I'd say that'll do for now. I'll just get on with it. Right, so the next one is translation from Kriegsmann, allegedly from the Phoenician. Or Kriegsmann. Seems like a German name or something. 1. I speak truly, not falsely, certainly and most truly. 2. These things below with those above, and those with these join forces again, so that they produce a single thing, the most wonderful of all. So these two different things below, those two different things above, right? They join forces, and those above join forces. And the single thing in the middle produces the most wonderful thing of all. The above and the below unified, unification of opposites, and the single moment of creation. I consider that time is an illusion. The single moment of creation that is like a wave of creation across the universe. And that is what is the most wonderful thing of all. Because the present is divine. Perhaps that's where the attention source is. I don't know. The attention of source isn't in one place. It's because many souls, right? It made me think of DNA though. Because you get these two strands on one of these side, and it's sort of, if you look at them swirling around, it'll look like it's two locations at the bottom moving up to one and then out and then up one again, And interestingly, you could say that the tree of life in the Kabbalah, you could say it's a bit like that in the way it goes up, because you don't just go up, necessarily go up directly. I mean, there's a way of going up it, which is like from one side to the other side, from one side to the other side. I don't know, that just came to mind. And then there's the other sense, just from above, it makes me think of something in A Course for Miracles, actually, where I described that it's to do with I would say I'd connect it to the idea of the great chain of being, if you've heard of it. It's this idea that from above, there's God reaching down, and from below, there's us reaching up. And in between, there's Christ, the Christ consciousness, sort of allowing us to get up there, like in between. It's like an older brother who helps us up, right? Now, we might not be of high enough frequency to access the divine, but through Christ we can, and the Christ consciousness is actually important in the universe. Now, there's different ways of terming this, or phrasing this, but essentially, different religions talk about it in different ways. But there is an energy or a force or something that Christ was a manifestation of, that is essentially, well, it's what Christ represents essentially. Maybe it's the present, maybe it's the divine will of Creator manifest in incarnation rather than in the original divine source. Honestly, I'm kind of going pretty intuitive in this, and take it or leave it, I guess. A single thing is, in a sense, unified, created, unification of everything that's created. The creator is that which is above, and below is, I don't know, 3. And as the whole universe was brought forth from one by the word of one God, that would be the original thought, Logos, the original thought of Logos, which created everything, because everything in a sense is created from a thought. And also, all things are regenerated perpetually from this one, according to the disposition of nature. Because the moment is eternal, and time is an illusion, which means insofar as we perceive time, it's perpetually over this. Through the illusion of time, we see a perpetual regeneration of, or a repeated waves of creation through, quote, time. And this is in accordance with nature. This naturally happens. And if you consider that there's above and below, and the one wonderful, there's this dot in the middle, which is what is described as a single thing, the most wonderful of all. And if you consider that, have that in mind, this eternal moment being that dot, but it keeps repeating itself in a series of waves, it's regenerated perpetually because, I mean, since time is an illusion anyway, if you spread a single moment throughout time, it will perpetually be regenerated. But what happens if you're kind of cut off, whether entirely or partly, from divine source? Well, you might not be regenerated to the same extent. And being in the finite, especially those of us of self, but even those who are just in the veil of ignorance and on earth, the more infinity we are in finity, the less we have that connection and the less we generated. Well, which is why we age, partly. If we were in touch in our hearts and an energy body fully with the divine, we wouldn't age. Because this regeneration can't properly happen, essentially. 4, it has the sun for father and the moon for mother. Interesting. Now, typically, people do view symbolically the sun as a father and the moon as a mother. But people also view the earth as a mother. I mean, typically, I would say, so from what I hear, Ra, that was channeled in the Ra material, they were originally the inhabitants of Venus that formed a social memory complex. And now they are, I suppose you could say, incarnated in the sun as a 6th density being. But Gaia is a recently ascended to 4th density being in the earth. The way incarnation in planets works compared to incarnation in people, I don't know how it works by comparison. I don't know. But apparently she's in 4th density and we're coming to 4th density partly due to that or with her, but it's just a difficult transition, right? And it's just that I see there's this law of gender and this masculine and feminine energies. And I get the sense that, I have heard it before, but there's this idea that from the sun, we get the masculine part of the energy coming in, from the earth, we get the feminine energy of it. I don't know how the moon fits into this, especially if you add in the theories that the moon is like, I don't know, like a Death Star or something from the Orion Wars or something, or like it's some sort of space station that underneath the dust is actually like hollow and it rang like a bell and someone landed on it. I don't know. There's all sorts of theories about the moon and it gets complicated trying to piece all this together. And so I don't entirely know how to make that. But maybe it's not about the literal sun and moon. It's about alchemy. And I wish I knew more about alchemy, because if I did, I could explain this better. I'll tell you what. I'm probably going to go back over this at a later date, and I'm probably going to give a better analysis of it. Because honestly, I don't even know. I might be doing a rubbish interpretation of this. But I mean, anyway, doesn't really matter. So you could just consider whatever masculine energies represent and whatever female energies represent. And it's a combination of these two things. The birthing of the new in a intuitive way and the designed creation of Logos, thought and felt, or thought and intuitive, like almost a bit like left brain and right brain in a sense. There's this feature of the law of gender, which is in everything. And I wonder if even when you get DNA, one strand is masculine, one is feminine, and they're together linked as they swirl up, spiral up. And if you think about it, what is a spiral if not a circle turning as it moves up in 3 dimensions? Like that. I don't know. Using my hands, but you can't even hear it. You can't see it, what I'm doing with my hands and what I'm doing. If you're watching YouTube, it might be a bit like confusing, but whatever. It is carried in the air as if in a womb. It is nursed by the earth. So the earth nurses and its air carries the word of God and the regeneration, the perpetual regeneration of the divine. In a sense, the divine energy, from what I hear, it flows into the logos of the sun or a star, and then from there it flows into a planet, in this case, Gaia, which is the motherly side of it, the logos is the masculine side of it. And then from there into us, and then from us back into Gaia again. And there must be an energy interaction between Gaia and the sun, just as there is between us and Gaia. It's the same sort of principle on different scales. And in fact, between the center of the galaxy and the sun, maybe there's a similar dynamic going on. In any case, it's sort of, in a sense, divine energy flowing from 7th density or flowing 8th density, whatever, flowing down, in a sense, down the chain of creation, down into us. But then upwards flows information from experience gained in incarnation in life. And so the whole thing is just as there's a chain coming down, in my view, there's a chain coming up. And perhaps since chains are in links, one link, another link, another link, if you look at it from another angle, a chain link and if you look at DNA, it's a bit like DNA maybe is a sort of chain link, right? And there's a sort of spiraling energy that David Wilcock looked into research about the, DNA and about light, and they found that DNA can grow and develop anywhere, like in the middle of like nuclear reaction chambers where there was no contamination at all, where life couldn't even react. Like life forms that are adapted for that, where there was no life to begin with and no way for it to get in, developed spontaneously. And even if you have like a vacuum contained, sealed, hermetically sealed container, for example, nothing in it whatsoever, DNA forms out of the light in a spiral, right? If you take out that, and the light forms around that DNA in a sort of pattern. Take away that DNA, there's a certain period of time where the light is still formed in that spiral shape, or the photons anyway, which is fascinating. And to me, I do feel like there's something about DNA. I do feel that this idea of the chain of being and the idea of energy flowing up and down this spiraling chain, it just sort of resonates to me. It is the cause, of all perfection, of all things throughout the universe. So this energy flow up and down, in and out from the center of the galaxy, this supermassive black hole, the center of the galaxy. Who knows what's on the other side, right? Maybe it's the next octave. And it comes out of that and then down, if not, and out to us. And we go gradually up and in as we develop. Maybe there's more lower density beings the further out you go. This is something David Wilcock suggested, I think, in the sense that beings move more towards creation as they rise in frequency and density of light. And it's this whole dynamic. It's a perfect dynamic in a sense, and there's perfection to be found in it. Although where there's disruption or disturbance of this dynamic, you don't get perfection, you get distortion. 6A, this will attain, now don't ask me why, like it says 6A and then 7 and then 7A and then 8. Like I don't know why it's formatted that way, but it's like, it just does. So it's like 6A, this will attain the highest perfection of powers aligning with this and rising up this way, you can attain the highest perfection of powers. But also, if you consider this on a smaller scale within your energy body, spiral up the different parts of your energy body, and you can, if you activate and synergize with all of the energy centers in your energy body, spiraling up, because it does spiral up, it doesn't just rise up straight, you can attain the highest perfection of powers. And this is probably represented in a sense by the rainbow body that is mentioned, that the Buddha and others enlightened beings can actually achieve. From what I hear, I think it's like if all your chakras are fully activated to the extent that a human can fully activate them, that's the rainbow body. And that would be the highest perfection of powers. Although I would say that the most important step for us is just opening a heart chakra anyway. So on a smaller scale, this highest perfection of powers would be on the level of the energy body. But from what I hear, like sixth density beings above a certain point, from what I hear, they don't have energy bodies. They just have spirit bodies. So I don't know how that evolution of the spiritual evolution works in that stage. It certainly wouldn't be anything to do with how the energy body is used, because they wouldn't have one at that point. They're thought form level. Like the Christ consciousness is sixth density as well. Wait. Oh yeah, so a spirit incarnates in something. In a sense, a soul is kind of like a thought form, right? In a sense, I don't know exactly how that works. Well, the logos is the fundamental creation. So maybe everything is thought and light. And I don't mean egoic thought, I mean divine thought, logos. Maybe that logos, the divine thought, that conscious light, the light of creation, of consciousness, maybe that is what source is. And that source is broken into many pieces, that is souls. And we are part of that. And Ra, for example, being the sixth entity being that sixth entity soul, let's say, spirit, whatever you call it, that is incarnating or inhabiting the sun, is in a way the same in a certain sense to us. And certainly in a sense, we do actually have a spirit body when we're in the spirit world. We have an energy body as well, but we're in the spirit world in between lives. We kind of in sixth density mode. I don't know how it works, because maybe we haven't all got the level of evolution that when we're in between lives that Ra would have, say, even though we've got the body of that in between lives, because we always have a spirit body, and that's what our soul is, right? But it's interesting that the idea that light is the divine thought, the divine consciousness. You could say it's love. Everything's love and light. Yeah, sure. Everything's love, light, thought. Love, light, thought. There's a ring to it. And that's perfection. And that pattern, there's a spiraling pattern to everything. Even the hero's journey, it's a circle, but if you repeat the circle, you go up to the next level and you repeat the circle again. What do you get if you have that with that? You get a spiral spiraling up. And so there's a spiral to everything. There's this pattern that I've been describing so far, and this chain of being, this up to creation and down from creation and up to it and so forth. This, and the truth is, it's all one moment, and it's time which is illusory anyway, which makes it seem like it's all broken up. It's really like a grand orchestra, a grand orchestration, a grand piece of music. In a sense, it's already written and it's just playing out, right? Although it's constantly being rewritten. Time, it's weird thinking of time when you consider how time is an illusion and then try to reconsider how the nature of change in light of the fact that time is an illusion. Because things still change even with time being an illusion, right? What is change, right? What is creation? What is creation? Changes things, changes what's created. It transforms and it changes. So there is something, even with time being an illusion, there's still change, and it's not stasis. Why would there be stasis? I don't know. I don't really, not sure where to go from that. It shall be reduced into the earth, or certainly from logos to the sublogos of the earth. The energy of creation does seep into the earth and then into us. Distribute here the earth and there the fire, thin out the density of the suavest, suavisima, thing of all. Now, unfortunately, I don't know what suavest or suavisima means, but the earth is alive in the Gaia sense. Now, if you think about soil, it's alive in that sense, it's organic. If you think about fire, there's in the emerald tablets of Thoth, which is fundamentally linked to this emerald tablet as well, it describes consciousness as fire. It's like it could be a spark, it can be a fire, but it's fundamentally the same thing. Now, if we consider fire as an element, it's linked to the soul in a sense, or at least a certain aspect of it. From what I was looking at the other day in this YouTube channel that was talking about certain occult principles and stuff, like Earth, elementally, Earth and, okay, fire and air are masculine and earth and water are feminine. So it's talking about earth, and then there's the fire, the feminine and the masculine. Different aspects of creation, I suppose. Thin out the density, and it's interesting that the word density is used. It might be referring to density of light, one way or another. Of this, the suavest thing of all. Well, the law of gender does apply to all, is manifest in all. And the unity of opposites is the whole, the one, the all. Eight, ascend with the greatest sagacity of genius from the earth into the sky, and thence descend again to the earth, and recognize that the forces of things above and of things below are one. Well, of course, there's the idea as below, so above, as below, as above, so below, right? That principle is mentioned in number 2, actually, typically. In a number of different translations, number 2 typically talks about, you know, that the law of correspondence, the law of, you know, as above, so below, as below, so above, yes. So it's repeated here again. And I wonder, it is mentioned in other versions of this as well. So something similar is said in the translation of Isaac Newton, although interestingly, okay, so Interestingly, Isaac Newton says, it ascends from ye earth to ye heaven, and again it descends to ye earth and receives ye force of things superior and inferior. This is interesting. He says superior and inferior. Maybe he means at different levels of existence. But maybe he also means of another sense. Like different degrees of fire, different degrees of light frequency. Like density. Forces of things below or above and below. So you need a certain degree of wisdom, and from that comes genius anyway, right? To ascend, there's a sagacity involved in that. There's a wisdom involved in that. I suppose. But there's a connection to the earth nonetheless. And thence descend again to the earth. There's a grounding, and having part of the ascension is, even though we ascend, we actually go into become a social memory complex with Gaia. So there's another sense, maybe when you get to the next octave, I mean, you end up starting over again. So in a sense, you could say it's like ascending all the way up and then down again. So there's different levels of each of these things. There's different levels in which you can interpret it. And of course, there's the reference to everything being one on every single level, as above, so below, etc., which is mentioned previously. 9, so as to possess the glory of the whole world, and beyond this man of abject fate may have nothing further. Interesting. So whether it's the whole world literally or everything, the whole of reality, there's the wholeness of all that is, which is source, the glory of the divine of all that is. We can possess it, be one with it, something like that. And beyond this man of abject fate may have nothing further. Thereby all, in a previous version that Isaac Newton said, it's thereby all obscurity shall fly from you. So you will understand all things. But interesting, if you look at that way, that which is obscure will fly from you even so, right? Which would suggest, I don't know, what I'm taking from that is the idea that you can do all that, but that's what she's on the other, the octave beyond is still beyond you. But I don't know at all what I'm reading, if I'm reading stuff into that. So you will drive away all shadows and blindness. That's the one before by Giorgio Bito. Okay, so it's saying that things will be clarified for you. You will understand how it is. The light shall shine on the darkness. That will be, and darkness, ignorance, they're linked, right? Ignorance is a darkness of other sorts. Ignorance is the absence of wisdom in a sense. And so if wisdom is a light, then the darkness to that is ignorance. Darkness is, in a sense, the absence of the divine. And yet, there are always spots in which their absence is there, right? If all was light, without any of the absence of light, would the light have meaning? Maybe it would. But maybe there would never not be darkness. There's always darkness to some extent. I mean, reality is infinite anyway. But then again, maybe darkness is always relative to light anyway. So maybe truly there's never absolute darkness. And so maybe in a sense, everything's light, even darkness. It's just a darkness denies its own light. But can you ever truly do that? Now, it may sound like it's contradicting around in circles, but I don't know. I have faith in what I'm doing. I trust that what I'm doing, it feels right to me, and that's all that really matters. Hopefully people like it, even if it's highly subjective. yeah, okay. Well, where am I going to go with this now? Okay. So 10, this thing itself presently comes forth stronger by reasons of this fortitude. It subdues all bodies surely, whether tenuous or solid, by penetrating them. Now, it reminds me of the force. It penetrates everything, right? Right. So the glory of the divine creation, and also that which you can possess, or being the divine perfection or sagacity or the genius, when you truly ascend, that, or at the very least ascend, and the sagacity of genius, the divine, the connection to source that you get, and that which the fruits of that is, it's a glory of all that is, the whole world. All obscurity, all ignorance is gone. You see how it is with clarity. And that, the fortitude of this, the sheer strength, the intensity of this subdues all bodies. Surely, it cannot be in any way. It just simply does so. That is the nature of it. It subdues all bodies surely, whether tenuous or solid, no matter how tenuous, I suppose, no matter how obscure its existence is, like the lightest feather and the heaviest rock. You know, the idea of like the tenuous or the solid, no matter, you know, there's this idea, right? Now, there's a type of sword that the Arabs used to have that used to be able to cut through silk, the tenuous, right? And then there was also like these long swords, like in the Crusades, that used to be able to like chop through really thick things, right? And there's a story of when they met each other, Saladin and Lionheart, and they were like showing off the swords that they had and stuff like that, and like, you know, he was like, look how much we can chop through it, right? And they was like, look at this, and they chopped straight through silk. And if you look at the symbology of that incident, which is, it represents two different aspects of things. You could say the tenuous and the solid, or you could say the feminine and the masculine, or you could say the logos and the eros. I don't know. You see the point of making here. And the divine creation penetrates all that and subdues all of that inevitably, because ultimately all of that is from it and is it anyway. Either that makes sense to you or it doesn't. There's nothing else I can say to that, right? 11a, and so everything whatsoever that the world contains was created. Absolutely, right? And everything was created, and everything created can be uncreated, and everything that is created is of the creation and is all connected. And you could say the whole series from 1 to 11a all is itself a chain that goes all the way down, but in a sense is connected all the way up and represents as a whole all that is. Now, I'm aware that to those who are either left-brain focused, I suppose, whatever, like, this is gibberings of a madman, right? But it doesn't matter what they think. They'll understand the due course. 12. Hence, admirable works are accomplished, which are instituted, carried out, according to the same mode. Yeah, I don't know why it spells it like that. Institute, 3 U's, no 2 U's. By this, so by this pattern that I've been describing, by which everything whatsoever that the world contains was created by this means, and it subdues all bodies surely by penetrating them, and it is the glory of source and all that is, beyond which nothing is obscured. All the admirable works are accomplished, which are accomplished, are instituted by that same divine mode, by the same way in which the divine creates and which everything really is. Everything, all the great works that are achieved by this, but it also suggests which the great works are not achieved through darkness. They're not achieved through egoic pursuits. They are mere imitations. It's by connecting to the divine that we create that which is truly worthwhile, that which is admirable works. For it is the creator that truly creates. It is, whereas that which makes in and imitates, that which makes and in a distorted manner, by not being connected to source. I mean, that's the demiurge, right? 13. To me, therefore, the name Hermes Trismegistus has been awarded because I am discovered as the teacher of the 3 parts of the wisdom of the world. What does 3 mean? In numerology, you could look that up, because honestly, off the top of my head, I don't have that detail right now. But I certainly know that, I could look that up. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm aware that 3 is made out of 1 and 2. 1 is linked to creation in a more masculine way, I would say, like logos. But it's certainly of wholeness of creation. 2 is like of balance. And then you could say maybe more of a feminine number. I think I might be wrong. And 3 is made out of 1 or 2. So it's kind of balanced, but it's also kind of an integration of masculine and feminine energies of creation. It's something that obviously was in itself, but also you could say it's a composite of 1 and 2. It's balance and it's integration and the triangle forms 360 degrees, the whole. In a sense, does it form that many degrees? Am I getting that wrong? I don't know. So the triangle, showing my math skills there. No, in divine geometry, I'm sure the triangle symbolizes things. But certainly there's an upward triangle and a downwards triangle which come together to form the Merkaba, the Jewish star, which, if you look at it in 3D terms, is an upward pyramid and a downward pyramid, which intersecting creates a certain shape. I can't remember the name of that shape. But one of them spins in one direction, one of them spins in the other. And it's no coincidence that that divine shape is the transportation vehicle of our soul, which is used in, I suppose, light magic. And third eye abilities and such. And this 3 is a key number. It's a divine number, and it does come up a lot. It's a in numerology has a lot of significance. Its significance is more than what I can recall. If you look it up, which I strongly recommend, look up the meaning of it online, and you can gather to some extent how that fits into Homus Trismegistus, whatever. Like, why is it 3? There might be 3 incarnations. Might be 3 aspects of the teachings where he teaches which are the nature of the world, the wisdom of the world. And certainly he's connected to Thoth. There's 3 aspects to that. Anyway, because I am discovered as the teacher of the 3 parts of the wisdom of the world. I wish there was more I could say about that, but right now, that's all I've got. 14. These then are the considerations which I have concluded ought to be written down concerning the readiest operations of the CHYMIC art. Chymic art. Chymic art. It's not chthonic, it's chymic. I can't. No, I'm going to have to look that up. Chymic. What is chymic? It's quite an interesting word. I like coming across words I haven't heard of before. No, wait a sec. I'm just going to look up chymic. Looking it up in Comedia came on. I don't know why. I haven't been searching for that, seriously. Come on. Is it searching? Pertaining to or derived from cyminum or cumin. Yeah, I don't think that's what I'm looking for. Chymic, not chymic. No, so I spelled it wrong. Right. Wonderful. Okay. It doesn't even register on that website. Oh, to do with chemistry. Oh, it's to do with alchemy, I suppose, isn't it? Kind of. Chemic. Yeah, well, fuck, that's not a regularly used term at all. Well, I give up on that one. So, chymic arts, eh? Chemistry, alchemy. Then these are the considerations which I've concluded ought to be written down concerning the readiest operations of the chymic art. Alchemy. Oh, alchemy. Yes. Alchemy. Now, alchemy is an inner process of transformation. It is an outer process. It's a process that is involves actual chemistry, like involving chemicals. And it's a process that perhaps happens on the universal level as well. And this is a process by which things are transformed in a series of reactions. Through a series of transmutations. But there is different stages of these reactions. And apparently through the process by which someone does inner alchemy, well, there's a series of key transformations. And there are people who know a lot more about it than me, obviously. I can't remember the YouTuber I was looking up who was talking about that. So I can't really. Anyway, if you look at that, look up alchemy, there's some interesting things about it. Anyway, I'm going to go to the next one. So from Sigismund Backstrom, allegedly translated from Chaldean, which Chaldean, by the way, is, I think it's Babylonian language, if I'm correct. I don't know why that's the case, but that's interesting. The secret works of Chiram 1, in essence, but 3 in aspect. Interesting. Yes. 3 and 1. 3 in 1. 1 yet 3. Yes. Not all of them have a 0. Yes, so there's an added stage beforehand. Are there any others that have a 0? Yes. The last one we read out that had a 0 was on page 10, which is 12th century Latin. When I entered into the cave, I received the tablet Zaradi, which it was inscribed from between the hands of Hermes, in which I discovered these words. But here it says this. Is there any other zeros here? It's got something else, the Arabic version, another Arabic version, which mentions something similar. And the last thing. And this one here from Jabir ibn Hayyan. Balinaz mentions the engraving on the table in the hands of Hermes, which says. And then I think that was the first, that's the first version of it that we had. So yeah, I don't know what Chiram mentions. Maybe it's the, I don't know. But that 1 and the 3, Hermes Trismegistus, the 3 aspects of Hermes Trismegistus, but there's 3 aspects of all that is, and the 3 aspects of us in a sense. There's the spirit, there's the soul of the energy spirit body, there's the energy body, and there's the physical body. And in Christianity even, there's the idea of there's a Holy Spirit, there's wow, I'm really knowledgeable about this, huh? There's God the Father, there's God the Holy Spirit, and there's God the Son. If you look at interpret it in the sense of Course in Miracles, God the Son is Christ, but it's also us, the incarnated, let's say third density ones. Not limited to that, but let's just say the incarnated, I suppose. Then there's Source, the Father, and there's the Logos, and then there's I'm going to be humble here and let's move on. It is true, no lie, certain, and to be depended upon. So what we say is the truth here. I mean, this is said of previous stages, these things, I speak truly, not falsely, certainly, blah, blah, blah. 2, the superior agrees with the inferior, and the inferior agrees with the superior to effect that one truly wonderful work. Well, first of all, even though we know it's talking about that as above, so below, as below, so above, it also seems to suggest to me a sense of collaboration between all the parts of all that is, all souls together creating a harmony, like in the Silmarillion, except that Melkor corrupted the soul, and thus what is created. And that's why there are malformed creations in the creation, because the song was distorted. Because he was arrogant and prideful and he wanted to distort it for his own purposes. And there's a divine song that's beyond any one. And when one puts oneself up on a level above, as if one can be the creator in, I mean, we are, but not in the holistic sense of I mean, there's the self-focused, and then there's the whole-focused approach. Service to others, service to self. That's distinction. And also there's inferior and superior. It could be just referring to different levels of existence in correspondence. That seems to be what it's referring to. But it's interesting, when that language is used, it is intriguing to me, because it has different implications potentially. Why is one thing better than another? Maybe something's higher than another. It's just interesting language there. But to effect that one truly wonderful work, which is all that is. 3, as all things owe their existence to the will of only one, and so all things owe their origin to the one only thing, the most hidden by the arrangement of the only God. I think I can't speak for itself, really. Like, it's the design of the creator that all things owe their existence, but in a sense, all souls are part of that creator. But that makes 3 no less true. 4, the father of that one only thing is the sun its mother is the moon. That is mentioned previously. I've addressed the sun and the moon and the masculine and the feminine aspects of things. It's the same thing mentioned there. The wind carries it in its belly, but its Norse, a form of nurse, is a spirituous earth. Wind is to be understood here as the element of air. And what does the element of air represent? Well, first of all, I said it's a masculine energy, right? In terms of, in fact, in terms of the Merkaba, the upward facing side is linked to fire and air, apparently, and the downward facing one is linked to earth and water. Now, the wind is the air, but there's the potential. Why does wind move? Because energy, right? It is a manifestation of energy. What is energy? It's heat, in a sense, in a loose sense. Now, and all sorts of relative differentials of heat. Now, this energy, could you represent it as fire? Now, could you say, therefore, that wind, in a sense, represents not just air, but also fire, in a sense? Now, when you talk about earth, could you not say that when earth is alive, it has water in it? When it's dead, it doesn't have water in it, generally speaking, right? And also when it says, and spirituous earth as well is a live earth as well, in a divine sense, and a spiritual sense as well. It's got a spirit to it, and of course it also mentions in its belly. So aliveness is mentioned to do with the wind and the earth, and it's all four elements are involved in this, and the ones that correspond to up and down on the Merkaba, which refer to masculine and feminine and the law of gender and how they come together as a whole. And it refers to Gaia in a sense, but it also refers to change that is manifested happens in the sense of the masculine logos and the intuitive aspect of things as well, masculine and feminine. And so, 6, that the only one thing is the father of all things in the universe. The law of one, all from one. There we go. 6a, its power is perfect. Divine power is perfect. Yes. After it has been unified with the spirituous earth, separate that spirituous earth from the dense or crude by means of a gentle heat with much attention. Okay, so this is talking about inner alchemy, I think, on some level. So combine those two elements within yourself, the masculine and the feminine, the left and the brain, right brain. Combine those two aspects of yourself. You could say it's brain hemispheric balance. What's the thing? Integration. Basically, integrate the opposites within you, right? Bring that logical side and the emotional side, bring it together. That's the first step. Unify it. It's interesting, like, in Jung's work, the unification of opposites is very much a theme, right? But also, you integrate your shadow in the sense of that integration of opposites. That's the first step. Well done. You've done stage 1. But still, it's a valuable step. So that in terms of the inner alchemy, as you alchemize yourself, as you transform yourself in a series of stages, the first step is to unify those opposites. Second of all, now this is, so you've got the masculine and the feminine united, separate, so you combine them with a chemical reaction, but not literally a chemical reaction, and merge them. There's a series of in this transformation, there's a transformation by which you merge these opposites. That's 1. 2, you separate it again. You separate with that, separate that spirituous earth from the dense or crude by means of a gentle heat and much attention. So pay close attention to the united whole that you have become. In a sense, you integrate your shadow, you integrate your opposites. Pay close attention to that. Gentle heat. So that's catalyst, that's challenge, that's heat is change, heat is linked to fire elementally. Anyway, you, symbolically speaking, apply heat to yourself, that integrated whole of opposites that have been merged. and pay attention, think of it as like applying a magnifying glass to that. There's a reaction as you bring these two together and do a reaction to bring them together. But then imagine like putting a magnifying glass and the light shines onto it. It's like applying attention to it, and also it's applying a heat to it. And what you get then is a gentle heat, and you get attention. In great measure, it ascends from the earth up to the heaven. So smoke starts coming up from that as a chemical reaction. But what you do then is, as it ascends, well, your frequency rises, but also that which ascends off rises up from it and is transformed and comes down again. So more of the divine is put into an aspect of yourself that comes off when you apply that heat to yourself. I don't know exactly what that is, but I imagine just separating part of yourself up into source to be gifted with something for your efforts, and you bring it back into yourself, and that begins a transformation of you as a whole and you. So, where were we? In great measure, it ascends from the earth up to the heaven, and ascends again newborn on the earth. Earth being the feminine side of you. And what does the feminine do? It births. And the superior and the inferior are increased in power. So there's the correspondence between that as below and as above. So within you, with the within, you've grown from this, you're stronger. Not just have united the opposites, but you have become more imbued with the divine, and you are increased in power from this. And what you birth from yourself, what you create as a matter of course now, is increased in power. Your ability of the law of attraction applies to a great extent. To how you change reality around you is enhanced, but also the frequency of what you create, and your frequency has been raised, and you change things in a more empowered, divine way. What you, in a sense, creation and what happens around you externally is a reflection within. That's the law of correspondence applies to that. And that molding of reality around you is, in a sense, a constant birthing process. So, and if it's done as like a, let's say, passive effect, it seems more like feminine creation as opposed to masculine creation, which is more explicitly designed by the Logos. So we're discussing how you transform yourself in a series of stages. 9, by this wilt thou partake of the honors of the whole world, and darkness will fly from thee. So from that point, move forth into the world and apply this greater capacity to learning of the world and to learning and to actions and to creation. And as you do this, darkness will fly from you. You will come to understand much more clarity. Ignorance will fly. Just as light shines forth from you, darkness recedes in its wake. That's how light works. And naturally, for frequency raised, you've got more of the divine with you, the light of the divine, and you're like a prism, comes out from you, shining forth greater. Naturally, the darkness around you recedes. That is simply a matter of course. Not 10. This is the strength of all powers. I mean, it's coming from the divine, right? You're just allowing more of the divine into you now. And naturally, of course, since you've unified the opposites, that will be enabled. With this, thou wilt be able to overcome all things and transmute all that what is fine and what is coarse. And that is a hint of the next stage, what to do. So you're in this position, it's great, you're fantastic, you raise your frequency, you got the potential, but what do you do now? Well, again, integrate that which is fine and that which is coarse. There's a distinction there. Even though you've integrated your opposites, maybe there's a new opposite within and without somehow. As a result, it's a series of changes. Think of it like chemistry. There's going to be changes and new changes to do. And what is the coarse and the fine? Well, as we described previously, I had this metaphor of the fine, the divine cuts through the fine like a scimitar through silk. It penetrates that through scimitar through silk. And it cuts through the coarse like a longsword, right? But it's a penetration of potential things, but in two different fundamental ways, but integrated together. So you integrate the most obscure, the finest, smallest details or whatever of reality, and well, I suppose the coarsest. I'm sure there's more to this distinction. One might be curved way of looking at things versus linear ways of looking at things. Circular or linear. That's a distinction that Jung refers to in the book, actually. Circular thinking and linear thinking. In any case, there's an opposite there between, let's say, fine and coarse. Integrate that, and there's going to be a chemical reaction, let's say. But that's a metaphor. A reaction internally. A transmutation, you have to integrate them together. It's not necessarily an easy process. You do that. What next? In this manner, the world was created. So this, in a sense, is a process which imitates or emulates how everything was created by the original thought. And maybe as you do this, you are the logos of an octave within you, where that's happening. I don't know. But in a sense, as above, so below, as below, so above, this is a manifestation of that. And in this manner, maybe once you've done this or in the process of doing this, you renew, you rebirth, you go through a process of rebirth once again. 12. The arrangements to follow this road are hidden. Interesting. What are the other ones said in number 12? Hence, admirable works are accomplished which are instituted according to the same mode. Okay, what else is said in 12? From this are and do come admirable adaptations whereof ye means or process is here in this. Hence, what else? Let's see what else is in 12. And hence the marvelous conjunctions of it and admirable effects, since this is the way by which these marvels may be brought about. Marvels of all that is, perhaps. From this comes marvelous adaptations of which this is the procedure. And there's this one, and accordingly proceed the knowledgeable. So by this process, there are many marvels that come from this process. The knowledgeable proceed by this process. This procedure. There are marvelous conjunctions of this involved, and many have more effects which come from this, brought about from this, marvels brought about from this. By this means, by this process. But it's hidden. It's not immediately apparent. You need to go through the prior stages for even to be visible how to do this. And what it does is, this process is in a sense very much akin to the creation of all that is in the first place. There's a certain degree of stages you need to go through before you can truly get this. And there's what's been said about it in all the other stages, which I read out to you. 13. For this reason, I am called Charam Telot Mekasot. So that is Hermes Trismegistus, Hermes thrice born. One in essence, but three in aspect. In this Trinity, now consider Trinity, Christianity has this Trinity. In this Trinity is hidden the wisdom of the whole world. So packed within this formula, maybe think of a triangle, right? That is like multiple dimensions, all packed into just a triangle. But in truth, there's a whole bunch more there. And another way, consider we see the world in 3 dimensions, but in truth, there's so much more dimensionally and wavelength-wise. It's all just packed into this parcel that when we look at it in 3D terms, so much is hidden from view, right? You need to go through a series of unpacking and integrating before this wisdom can be attained. This unpacking and this integration. And in this Trinity is hidden the wisdom of the whole world. So you understand everything, all that is by this process. In a sense, it is ended now. What I have said concerning the effects of the sun, finish the tabula smaragdina. Okay. The other ones refer to the operations of the kind of chymic art. Another one, like Isaac Newton referred to, the operation of the sun. And I suppose the idea is that it's about alchemy, but it's also about, the spirit, in a sense, is fire, is the spark of consciousness, is the sun, is light, it is well, it's all that is. It is consciousness, and it is transformation. It is how you do the inner alchemy, essentially. That's one aspect of things, but there's more. I was just zooming into one aspect of this process, but this is also saying the nature of reality on a holistic scale, and a whole bunch of other things about how, for example, the law of attraction works and so forth. Very interesting. Well, I've really talked in great detail about basically only 2 stages. The next one is by Madame Blavatsky. What is below is like which is above, and what is above is similar to that which is below to accomplish the wonders of the one thing. The law of correspondence and the law of one, those are what's referred to here. And that's just simply says that. So you go straight to number 2. 3, as all things were produced by the mediation of one being, and so all things were produced from this one being by adaption. 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 Okay, let's go to what the other threes say. I mean, the previous one says the most hidden by arrangement of the only God. The one before that, and as the whole universe was brought forth from one by the word of one God, and so also things are regenerated perpetually from this one according to the decision of nature. The one before that, Isaac Newton. And as all things have been and arose from one by mediation of one, and so all things have their birth from this one thing by adaption. By adaption. I mean, I have an idea what adapting is, but you think of evolution. I don't know if that's what's been spoken of here. In this one, Aurelium Oculatae Philosophorum by Giorgio Abitio, it says, at the end, it says, made one by conjunction. So two things coming together, conjuncting. Interesting. That almost refers to astrology in a sense. Again, by adaption. There's this aspect of what adaption means that I don't entirely grasp somehow. This is also quite different. And things have been from this primal substance to a single act. How wonderful this work. It is the main principle of the world and its maintainer. And the original one was Jabir ibn Hayyan, as all things were from one. So, in regard to the law of correspondence, as below, so above, as above, so below, in regard to this, the conjunction of the above and below, in regard to the correspondence of all, in regards to the chain of being from the very highest to the very lowest, all of that being one, all of which is produced by the one and makes up the one, and the constant change and adaptation of creation throughout time, which is an illusion anyway, is produced from the one. 4, its father is the sun, its mother the moon. I believe I'll discuss this one. It is, the sun radiates, the moon reflects. One is outright creation. One is creating the external from within through design. The other is the external being transformed by the change of your inner design. You change your inner design, you automatically change what you passively transform in external reality. That's feminine intuitive law of attraction creation. What you birth automatically from yourself, what your natural creation process is, changes in correspondence to the internal changes you make. That's the feminine aspect. The masculine aspect of is what you set your attention to change and that change happening in accordance with that. And these two things correspond. When people talk about the law of attraction, on one hand, often the very masculine side of it is discussed to people, especially when it's framed in an out of context sort of selfish sort of way, where they're like, what can you get what you want? How to get what you want, right? How to attract what you want in your life, and focus on what you want, visualize it, and you can get it, which is kind of true in the sense of how it works, but it's cut up from the wider context, because if you just do that, and you don't actually do the inner work, and you focus on how much you want it, you might actually be like, you want it like you don't have it, and then you repel it from yourself. Whereas one way of doing the law of attraction is by simply being aware of its existence and not really doing anything other than that, other than improving your frequency. What happens then? You do the inner work and you increase your frequency, but you don't do anything about it. What happens is automatically what you automatically energetically create in your externally simulated reality around you automatically is just more in harmony and light. That's the feminine creation. It's done by the mirroring effect, the mirror effect, the way the moon reflects the light of the create of the light, the logos. The sun is a logos. Our soul is a logos. Our soul is a spark, is a flame. The sun is a spark, is a flame. The moon reflects. The external world reflects us, just as the moon reflects the sun. I see that as connected. There's two ways of doing creation. And fundamentally, if you combine both together, let's say, let's apply it to law of attraction. If on one hand, you're raising you raise your frequency and continue to do so. That's one. And as a matter of course, you'll be attracting more positive things through energetic ties that you have with the external world. And if you transform the inner to make it brighter and less blockages and distortions within you, naturally what happens around you reflects that. But if at the same time you're consciously paying attention and setting intentions to what you would intend to attract, then that will attract that. But you won't be tripping yourself up by focusing on something that you want like you don't have it, thus making you not have it more. It is the cause of all perfection throughout the whole earth. And by this combination of processes, the logos intention setting creation, that's more direct and masculine, and the feminine reflective mirror effect sort of approach. Through the integration of these two things, and through the integration of the feminine and masculine energies within you, through the integration within you of it within you and in the external reality, in your actions and so forth, and reflected from that, through the conjunction of the sun and the moon, the light and the dark, not the light and the dark, what am I saying? The masculine and the feminine. You get an integration of opposites, and it's one of the stages of the alchemical process within you. And it is cause of all perfection throughout the earth. So not just new, but across the earth. And as the awakening process happens, this will happen throughout the earth. And also, if you look at the earth as all of reality, all of created reality, the feminine created reality, and that which birthed from it, this is simply the way it works in the universe. It's not just individually for you, it's on a universal level. The correspondence between the two forms of creation that I mentioned, this interaction, this dance, and think of it like a dance. There's the masculine and the feminine energies in the dance, ballroom dancing. There's the lead and the follow, in a sense. But in a sense, it's an alternating dance. Anyway, 7, its power is perfect if it is changed into earth. Right, so the masculine, the light love of Logos, the light of creation integrated into the earth, if, for example, your transformation of reality, your law of attraction, the intention you set, the desiring that transforms reality according to design, let's say, if it's integrated and grounded in harmonious connection to source and earth, then what happens is its power is perfect in that case. Then, so you've integrated the opposites. Then separate the earth from the fire, the subtle from the gross, acting prudently and with judgment. So you separate out these different features again, and the subtle from the gross, prudently and with judgment. You don't just do it outright. Ascend with the greatest sagacity from earth to heaven, unite together with the power of things inferior and superior. My understanding is being a bit stretched here, I admit. I wish I understood what it was saying a bit more, but I have mentioned this process already in previous sections. It's talking about the dense, it's talked about the dense and the crude. Is this, I think this relates to the whole metaphor I had about the scimitar and the longsword, or the penetration of all things, that is there's something on the course, what is it? The two aspects of things, anyway, the fine and the coarse, the fine and the coarse. So to separate the fine and the coarse, let's say, the subtle from the gross, he says here. But you pay attention to it, you don't just do it. You have to be precise here. It's a careful operation that you're doing to yourself here. You do it consciously, you do it when you're ready to. You don't just, you need to integrate your opposites. And then you can do this. You integrate and then you separate again, but in a careful, conscious way. And so you extract the greatest sagacity from yourself, let's say, and ascend with that from the earth to heaven. So perhaps it's you unite the subtle aspects of yourself with the superior and the coarse with the inferior, or maybe not, maybe not. But in any case, I can't fully understand what that's saying, to be honest. This particular strand of thought than one in this particular translation by Madame Blavatsky. But ascend together with greatest sagacity from earth to heaven and unite together with the power of things inferior and superior. So there's a reuniting, but it's done in a different way after this separation. Thus you possess the light of the whole world and obscurity will fly from you. So however this is done, in this process, you're imbuing yourself with more of the divine once you're ready, once you've integrated your shadow and integrated the opposites within you. You integrate the opposites within you, you imbue yourself, or maybe you're gifted from the divine, more of its divine power. Or rather, you are able to be more a prism that reflects more of the divine light out through you. And if you think multidimensionality, that light, even if it doesn't seem like it's coming into you and then out, that it's coming into you multidimensionally and out of you in a more three-dimensional sense. And that's why you will radiate light in a sense, whether literally or in a sense that can only be seen through the third eye being activated. In a sense, you will radiate more light in one way or another. You'll be more harmonious. People already notice that. You know, the idea of someone who walks in a room, they light up the room. That idea. Like, if you walk in a room and like, with Eckhart Tolle, and if Eckhart Tolle walked in your room, like you'd notice the difference. Not to put him on a pedestal or anything, but you know what I mean. And if you do this, well, I mean, it was just the light of the whole world. And all obscurity will fly from you. It's a great clarity that comes from this. There is a wisdom that comes from this, a sagacity that comes from this. 10, this one thing has more fortitude than fortitude itself. That's an interesting statement. It's a sort of higher fortitude, a divine fortitude, because it will overcome every subtle thing and penetrate every solid thing. That's the bit that's like the scimitar and the sword, but it fundamentally does both. As the benefits of both of those things. That's not something I mentioned before. Everything, no matter what, is... the idea came to me of it bends to the will a bit, but that's not what I mean. I don't think it is at all. Is subject to this divine light and power, something like that. By it, the world was formed. And that's the end of that one, Blavatsky's one. And by this process, the world is formed. And it's referring to the last thing, period prior to it, but it's also saying as a whole process, this is by which how everything was created. But also so like this might be a process about birth itself, and also about how you birth things and how you rebirth yourself as well. How many more pages of this anyway? Interesting. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do a whole bunch more sections. If I'm going in this much detail, right, there's this other things here. What is this? So there are these other sections, and then after that, other translations, and then there's commentaries. I'm not sure if I'm going to do the commentaries. The question is, am I going to do more? There's a from Volcanelli. You know what? I'm going to do another episode of this another time. And I don't know when that'll be. It might be in 2 months' time. It might be 5 months' time. It might be next week. It might be tomorrow. I don't know. So that is enough for now, because I've gone on quite a while. But you know what? I enjoyed this. I got new insights that I didn't get from before from this. I got new angles from this. And I read, it's like I read it more than once with different angles in this session. So it might sound like the ramblings of a madman, but hopefully at least some of you like what you heard. But in any case, I trust and I have faith in what I'm doing. So take it or leave it, I guess. Well, if you have stayed until now, thank you a lot. And if you're listening to on YouTube or something, like and subscribe, please. That'd be great, but you don't have to. And well, bye for now, and light be with you or something. All right, bye.